Thinking about buying property in Greece? Maybe an apartment in Athens, a vacation home near the coast, or an investment property with long-term potential. Before you start looking at listings, there is one important question you need to answer. How much does it really cost to buy property in Greece? Because the asking price is only part of the total investment. In this video, we'll break down the main costs you should expect when buying real estate in Greece, so you can understand the numbers, plan your budget, and avoid expensive surprises. Let's get started. Imagine you find a property listed at 300,000 euros. Your total budget should not stop at 300,000. There are additional costs to consider: taxes, notary fees, legal services, property registration, technical due diligence, and, depending on the transaction, a real estate agency fee. As a practical planning rule, international buyers should consider keeping additional funds available above the actual purchase price. A buffer of around 10% can be a useful starting point. Your actual costs may be lower or higher. Every property, and every transaction, is different. But the important point is simple. Never calculate your investment based only on the listing price. Now, let's talk about property transfer tax. For a typical property purchase in Greece, the buyer is generally responsible for the transfer tax. The basic tax rate is 3%. And, with the additional municipal levy, it is commonly calculated at approximately 3.09%. For example, on a property with an applicable taxable value of 300,000 euros, that would be approximately 9,270 euros. And remember, this is just one part of the total acquisition cost. Next, we have the notary. The notary plays a central role in a real estate transaction in Greece. The notary prepares and authenticates the final purchase deed and handles important parts of the formal transfer process. The exact cost depends on the property value and the structure of the transaction. So again, before committing to a purchase, ask for an estimate of the notary costs. You want to know the numbers before you sign, not after. Now, let's talk about something even more important: legal due diligence. A lawyer is not simply there to review paperwork. A proper legal review can help verify ownership, check the title history, identify possible liens or claims, and make sure you understand exactly what you are buying. For an international investor, this is especially important. Saving a small amount of money on legal due diligence can become very expensive later. Remember this: a beautiful property with a legal problem is not a beautiful investment. But legal due diligence is only one side of the equation. Please also understand the property's technical condition and legal status. That may require a qualified engineer. You may need answers to questions like: do the actual square meters match the official documents? Have there been unauthorized modifications? Are there planning or building issues? Does the property legally support the use you have in mind? And, will renovations or improvements require additional permits? This becomes especially important with older buildings, commercial properties, renovation projects, and investment properties. At Urban Keys Real Estate, we believe you should never evaluate a property only by how it looks. You also need to understand what you can legally do with it, what you can practically do with it, and what the property could become. After the purchase contract is completed, the ownership transfer must also be properly registered. So, you should budget for land registry or cadastre registration costs. These costs are another part of the acquisition process. They may look relatively small compared with the purchase price, but they still need to be included in your total budget. Again, the goal is to understand the complete investment, not just the advertised price. You may also have a real estate agency fee. The exact commission depends on the agreement and the transaction. Agency fees are separate from the purchase price and may also be subject to VAT. Always clarify this before making an offer. Ask, what is the agency commission? Is VAT included? And, are there any other professional fees I need to budget for? A serious investor should know the complete acquisition cost before moving forward. And there is something else many buyers forget. The costs do not end when you receive the keys. After buying a property in Greece, you may also have ongoing expenses. For example, annual property taxes, building or condominium expenses, insurance, maintenance, utilities, property management, and, if the property generates rental income, taxation related to that income. One of the main recurring property taxes in Greece is called ENFIA. So, when evaluating an investment, don't simply ask, how much does this property cost? Ask a better question. What will it cost to acquire, own, maintain, and operate this property? That is an investor's question. Now, let's put everything into perspective. Imagine you are considering a property priced at 300,000 euros. Instead of saying, my budget is 300,000 euros, a smarter approach would be, my property budget is 300,000 euros. And I have additional funds available for taxes, legal work, notary costs, registration, technical checks, agency services, and other transaction expenses. Using approximately 10% as a planning buffer. That would mean keeping around 30,000 euros available above the property purchase price. Again, that does not mean your additional costs will be exactly 30,000 euros. They could be lower. They could be higher. But now, you're planning like an investor, not simply shopping based on listing prices. And what about international buyers? Can someone living in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, or another country, buy real estate in Greece? Yes. Foreign buyers can purchase property in Greece, subject to the applicable legal and administrative requirements. But there are important steps to complete. For example, you will generally need a Greek tax identification number. You'll also need the appropriate legal, tax, notary, and property registration procedures to be completed correctly. This is why having the right local team matters. A real estate advisor, a lawyer, a notary, an accountant, and, when necessary, an engineer. Each plays a different role. The objective is not simply to close a real estate deal. The objective is to make a well-informed, well-structured, and well-protected property acquisition. At Urban Keys Real Estate, Athens, Greece, we work with buyers, investors, business owners, and property owners looking for opportunities in Athens, Piraeus, and the wider Greek real estate market. We have a particular focus on commercial real estate, investment properties, and opportunities where location, business potential, and long-term value really matter. So, if you're considering buying property in Greece, visit urbankeysrealestate.com. Explore available properties, investment opportunities, and practical real estate guides for international buyers. And remember, before you buy, understand the property, understand the numbers, understand the location, and understand the opportunity. Urban Keys Real Estate Athens, Greece. Property, investment, opportunity.